Autism spectrum quotient. I prefer to do things with others rather than my own. Definitely disagree. I prefer to do the same things over and over again. Absolutely. Every morning I go up to the same cafe, get the same London fog latte. I like to eat the same food, wear the same clothes. I've been wearing this shirt as my pajamas for probably way too long. If I try to imagine something, I find it easy to create a picture in my mind. I mean, I went to art school, so this is not the most difficult thing for me. I frequently get so absorbed in one thing, I lose sight. Notice small sounds. People think that I'm kind of an asshole. Absolutely agree. There's been so many times where I've said something to my family or my friends, and they're just looking at me with this shock of complete mortification. And I'm just like, why are you so mad at me? I find social situations very easy. I notice details. I'd rather go to a library than a party. No. I tend to have strong interests, which I get set if I can't pursue. Absolutely. I enjoy social chit chat. Absolutely not. I don't particularly enjoy reading fiction. Actually, no. I like fiction. I find it hard to make new friends. Definitely agree. I notice patterns in things all the time. I mean, I spend again all my time staring at solvers and trying to figure out the patterns. It does not upset me if my daily routine is disturbed. Definitely disagree. I am a man of routine. I find it easy to read between the lines if someone is talking to me. I mean, this is something that my partner pointed out too, is that all my life I've been really, really obtuse to when people are flirting with me. I mean, there have been times where people are like, hey, come eat muffins in my bedroom at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm just like, oh, cool, you have muffins? I usually concentrate more on the whole picture than the small details. I enjoy doing things spontaneously. Often they'll ask to understand the point of a joke. Probably not me. I find it easy to work out when someone is thinking or feeling just by looking at their face. No. This might be a trauma response from PTSD from violence in my childhood, growing up with, an abusive dad. Maybe I just check in with people way too often, so hard to tell. I'm good at social chit chat. I think this is something that being a stage performer over the years has been masked, is that people think I'm very social and I'm very good at chit chat, but it is such a pain to me to the point where I have a chiropractor who asks me how my weekend is going, and it just drives me insane. And that doesn't sound like a small thing, but it is. People often tell me I keep going on and on about the same thing. It's really funny because if there's like a pause in the conversation and my girlfriend asks, are you thinking about poker? The answer is yeah, probably. So I like to plan activities I participate in carefully, love to know all the schedules and times. I enjoy social occasions. No way. There was a time where Wolfgang was hosting a poker game about 30 minutes from my house after he flew in from Dallas, and despite the game being curated, it's going to be really soft, 2-5, right? Like no pressure from a social or poker perspective. I still didn't go. I was unfortunately too anxious and wasn't able to make it out there. So definitely not a big social guy. Also makes live poker kind of difficult. I find it difficult to work out people's intentions. Yep, really hard. New situations make me anxious. Definitely agree. Although again, having training as a stage performer, sometimes I just have to kind of deal with it, and I actually do appreciate the feeling afterwards of having navigated through a new situation well, but still makes me anxious. I enjoy meeting new people. Not really. I'm a horrible diplomat because I'm probably a little bit too rude. I find it very easy to play games with children that involve pretending. I hate kids and I hate pretending, so I slightly disagree. Actually, probably definitely disagree. Okay, so let's see what my score is. Shiny button says 35 out of 100. Score of 26 or greater indicates the presence of autistic traits. Okay. About 80% of people score 32 or higher, whereas 2% of controls do. So a score of 32 or above is particularly significant. And I have 35. Okay, so it looks like that according to this, I probably have autism. And it's kind of funny because this actually isn't my first autism test. I've probably taken like 6 or 7 across different websites, and it was actually really funny because they say if you're willing to take a multitude of tests that indicate autism, you probably have autism, because what kind of person is just like, man, I really identify with this story, with this experience, and I really need to test myself, and I need to have that kind of reassurance through multiple tests. So last night I was going through TikTok, and there's like this very specific brand of TikTok, like ADHD TikTok, and one of the creators said, "Oh, if you identify with these 5 things, it's very likely you have autism. For example, you do both manic things and depressive things, but you don't do enough of them to be considered to be bipolar. You have kind of emotional impulse control. You're really bad with other people. I think that you're kind of an asshole." And I'm like, wow, all of these things absolutely describe me. Like, very often I don't try to be an asshole, but sometimes I just accidentally am, to my partners, to my students, to my peers. And I'm just too hard on people because in many ways I'm also too hard on myself internally. So I think that this is very normalized dialogue. And so this all kind of ties back to a while back. I saw someone write on a Phil Guff on YouTube. He was curious if there were people who are neuroatypical and they have success in their poker careers. And I'm not someone who has had, the greatest success that I'm a household name, but I am comfortable in my profession and comfortable being able leading others to the promised land. And so in that sense, I'm someone who is very neuroatypical. I probably have ADHD, autism. I've had, horrible PTSD over the course of my life, again, from violence that I've seen in my youth. And this has all compounded toward having a probably more difficult poker career than others, because while sometimes my technical ability might be better than the players I'm playing against, my social anxiety and all of these other factors sometimes have me have autistic meltdowns or shutdowns or have sensory overloads, and I just can't continue. Right, so there's a lot of times where I'm sitting at a really, really juicy table when I'm playing in Dallas, and then after like 4 or 5 hours, I leave. Meanwhile, my peers are like, "No, fuck this. I'm going to stay until 5 in the morning and stack this guy." And I just can't do it because it is too much stimulus. And so, for one, if you are having emotional, intellectual, kind of like internal problems regarding poker, besides just technique and discipline, realize it might be something else. And for one, it means that you should be more forgiving for yourself, right? I've had students, say that they're going through major breakups. They are, going through getting over family members who have cancer, people who are just like losing their jobs, on the verge of homelessness. I mean, there's just like, a lot of other things that can contribute to how well you are doing as a poker player. And I think it's really, really important to be forgiving to yourself because, for me, sometimes I look back and I'm just like, man, why am I not perfect? Why, after all of this study, am I not able to just play just like a solver or play like all of the mass data indicates? And I just realized, well, I don't need to expect perfection from myself because there are some other problems that I am dealing with. And so I need to be nicer to myself and focus on those things before I can really, develop the strongest parts of my professional career. So, definitely coming to this realization was really, really important to me. And that, over the next couple months and years, I'll be kind of doing my internal processing and grieving, right? But in many ways, PTSD is very common in autism because it makes it difficult to process trauma. Great. And so, I'm just looking for ways to be nicer to myself. And hopefully through being nicer to myself, I get to be kinder to the people around me. But I think that starting this journey of being kinder to myself and kind of acknowledging the problems that are going on internally will, make me a stronger player eventually. And so I hope I say this so that other people feel heard. Because when I first heard about this diagnosis, when my own partner, first suggested, "Oh, you might have some autistic traits," I kind of laughed it off, and I didn't think, "Oh, definitely doesn't apply to me," especially as someone who, I would like to consider as a high performer throughout my entire life. But the fact of the matter is that these are things that affect me, and I imagine affect a lot of other people who are watching this right now and who have not talked about it, right? Like, poker is a tough world. I say this without facetiousness. I've known people who have gone 6 figures in debt and then hung themselves. Right? Like, I know people who have played poker and experienced the darkest side of it. I'm certainly not one to be able to offer too much guidance for those other people, right, who are in a tougher spot than me, but I still hope that, some of you guys hear this and realize one part of the journey to being great at any discipline is mastering your internal game. And for some people, that's going to be way harder than others. And if you are one of those people, I just hope that you are much nicer to yourself and realize that this affects all sorts of players at all different heights of the game. Happy New Year, everyone. I'll probably get back to talking about strategy after this video, but I thought it was going to be an important one to make, and it's been one that has been difficult for me to want to create for a long time. So this is Alvin Teaches Poker. Happy 2024.